Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you can get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, this guest is Hisonni Mustafa Johnson, who's award-winning director of Takeout Girl. Hisonni, welcome to the show.
Hello there.
Yes. I mean, we're going to be talking about the whole Takeout Girl thing. You know, I really know that that's been a big project that you were working on. And I know a lot of the listeners are going to want to know about that project. But before we actually dive into Takeout Girl and how you got into the directing side of things, could you just give us a little about your background and where you're from?
Yeah. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is the most segregated city in America. I say segregated, but I definitely don't mean racist. It's just an infrastructure that's been set up way before my generation got there. And, you know, old habits are hard to break. But I grew up with a single mom trying to make my way in Milwaukee and, you know, during a very violent time in the inner cities in Milwaukee, and discovered filmmaking when I was about 12 or 13 years old and made films pretty much all the time throughout my teens. As a matter of fact, I even started making feature films around age 16 with my friends and teammates. And I ended up going to a really prestigious private school with a bunch of fairly well-off kids who could afford to rent out movie theaters. And we would play our movie in a movie theater for the weekend.
Oh, wow.
And we would get the box office, the movie theater would get the concessions and our rental fees. And that was our summer job. We sold out so many showings that we really didn't have to work for the rest of the summer.
Now, you're saying that your friends got together. You guys filmed a short film and then aired it premiered it at the theater.
Oh, no, we made 70, 80-minute films. Yeah, my football teammates, my gymnastics teammates, my classmates, we would all get together and we didn't write scripts. We would just improvise the whole film, and we would choreograph fight scenes and stunts. There was a lot of snow in Wisconsin, so you could find amazing snowbanks, and we would drive and have people jump off of cars. And we were kind of, I don't know, I think we're the last of a throwback generation where in your childhood, you were truly indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
And we took advantage of it.
It sounded like the Sandlot over there for you guys.
It was a blast, man. It was a blast. Some of the stuff, I call my friends just to ask them if it really happened. And they always confirm that it did. Now,
when you said growing up, you said the whole segregated stuff. How did you feel about that growing up? Obviously, you said you're a single mother. Did you have any other siblings growing up?
I have 4 sisters and my mom.
So it's 5 of you all together.
Yeah, I have I was very loved because I had all those women who just cared so much about me. But it was a very dangerous neighborhood. My mother had her struggles with substance abuse, probably because of the stress of raising all of us on her own, and it's probably some of the mistakes she made in her past. But yes, it's a very segregated city. You know, Latinos, Hispanics stay on their side of the city, Blacks stay on theirs, whites stay in the best parts of the city. And it was interesting. I could definitely say that it felt like Blacks got the short end of the stick, and the expectation for Black people coming from Milwaukee is just very low. People get a look at you and they think they kind of understand what you're capable of very early on, which makes it difficult to, excel at life. It makes it difficult to have room to grow and reach new barriers financially and just economically.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm assuming that was something that, especially growing up in the inner city, that's one of those things where you start to question, could you break that barrier? Could you make it past that? Did you have any coaches or mentors or someone to kind of inspire you to kind of like inspire? I mean, obviously doing this stuff with your friends was always good. You know what I'm saying? Selling out a movie theater is amazing. But the reality is like, how do you make this a profession? Like, how did that come about?
Filmmaking did not register as something that could be a profession as a young person. I took to filmmaking because I was a very scared person growing up. In my neighborhood, I had seen some of my playmates get killed.
Oh, wow.
My mother it was such a violent neighborhood. I'd seen many murders by the time I was a teenager. Like literally across the street, there were chalk outlines and I saw those bodies hit the ground. So I became accustomed to seeing death by the time I was 7 years old. And it seemed like a very likely outcome. As a matter of fact, my mom would give me a $5 bill to put in my sock to go play because people robbed kids in our neighborhood. And if they robbed you, it was better for you to have something for them rather than for them to go through all the trouble for nothing. So she gave me money just to get robbed. You actually looked forward to it snowing because at least you could hear people coming up behind you with the crunching of the snow. So it was definitely survival of the fittest. And I didn't have a lot of food at home sometimes. Definitely not a lot of choices of food at home most of the time. And when I made movies, that was the only time I lost track of time. I wasn't thinking about the police that rough you up for nothing. I wasn't thinking about the bullets that every once in a while fly right through your house and have you and your family having this lay in the bathtub together just for safety. I wasn't thinking about the fact that, my mom was struggling with her substance abuse. I wasn't thinking about any of that. When I made movies, I was just gone and I was happy. And I had something to focus on that was so challenging that it just required all of my mind power. And that's kind of stayed the appeal my entire life. Now, it's funny you bring up, breaking that glass ceiling. That's kind of my life's goal, but not for the reasons one would think. Yes, I'd like to be financially independent. And I'd like to know that I would love to know that I made a film that people received so well that I can make movies for the rest of my life and go on and start a family and take great care of them. But the underlying reason for wanting to break that glass ceiling is because it does feel like my family's capabilities are limited by lots of factors probably going on. It's funny how I have a lot of white friends. I have white people that I consider family. I have people I consider family of all races, but I feel the pull of a history I haven't experienced holding us back. And all I want to do is prove to my mom, who has already passed away, that she can that she produced something that could break that glass ceiling. And the reason being, once again, I don't have kids, but I do have nephews and nieces, and they're going through the same struggle as me. Like when I was 13, 14 years old, I wanted to make filmmaking my job, but I didn't know anyone who had succeeded to that level. I didn't know any college graduates, let alone people working in Hollywood. So what makes you think you can do it? Everything I've ever accomplished in life, I'm kind of the first person from my neighborhood I know who had done it, let alone my family. My family, I'm breaking new ground with every accomplishment. And I think making it in Hollywood, cracking into these top tier film festivals, those are all just me saying to my mom, you did good. And to my future children, letting them know that it's not impossible for you because you're
That's
Black.
True. That is true. That is true.
I got to break that, or I'm not sure I'll ever feel like it was all worth it.
I mean, and you did, like you mentioned in the beginning, you went through a lot, seen a lot, especially at a young age. I mean, obviously growing up in the inner city, we already know the amount of struggles that happen, but to constantly be engulfed in it, you could either go left or you could go right. Now you speak highly of your mother. You keep, you bring her up and say, my mother, I'm doing this for my mother. That's one of the big reasons I want to make sure that she's proud of me. Could you tell us a little bit more about that background? Like what was the culture that your mother was trying to, instill into you guys?
I feel like I know two different moms. I know the mom that had her own struggles and had failing health by the time I was like 10 or 11 years old.
Mm.
That woman is kind of a shell of the mom I got for like a year of my life. When my mom got clean and went to rehab and went back to school, she was the most beautiful and smart. Like, she's so much smarter than I'll ever be. She was kind. She was funny. She was hardworking. I get where I get my characteristics from, except she had a solution for these impossible problems. Like, I only have $20 and I got to buy enough food for you guys to have breakfast and dinner every day for a week. Like, that's a solution that I, to this day, couldn't come up with. How did she make Halloween costumes? How did she decorate for Christmas? It was all in. If you think filmmaking is hard and solving the problems of that, I always think about my mom, and then things put it into perspective. When you have little human beings counting on you to make them feel like they're not the poor kids, and you do it, you got to be pretty bright.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure right there. To kind of, you said 4, but that was 5 of you all together.
Yeah, there was 5 of us at the point in time I'm talking about. My older sister had left. I have an older sister who's 10 years older than me, and then one that's 7 years older than me, and there was a good part of my life where it was just me and my younger sisters. But my mom made it work. She taught us what we needed. She instilled in me a love for knowledge. Because, my mom comes from that generation where if you knew something amazing, you had to go to the library and figure out the Dewey Decimal System just to understand some stuff. And she knew a lot of really amazing stuff. She had an amazing vocabulary.
Where was she from originally?
She's from Milwaukee.
Oh, from Milwaukee.
Yeah, she's from Milwaukee. Her family grew. I think my family origins on her side go back to Arkansas, all the way back to slavery. And my mom is of mixed ethnicity. My mother and my grandmother, and I think that's kind of what moved us north. Is a relationship between a white man down south and a black woman, and their families not really being cool with it, moved them north. And my mom, my grandma, my mom, they're all, my grandma is still in Milwaukee. So we're all, majority of my uncles, my sisters. So, yeah.
Okay. And I from reading on, I heard that you were Guyanese as well.
Well, that is an interesting story too. I grew up believing my biological father was one person, but I think 11 years after my mom passed away, sometime during that 11-year period, I've been in a relationship with a woman for 15 years. She's a wonderful lady. She produces some of my films. And sometimes we talk about having kids. And she is a proud Greek woman. And, us as Black men, sometimes we don't exactly know where we're from, which prompted me to do, a DNA test. Because, I didn't want my children with her to just be proud of one part because that's all they knew. So I wanted to find out, what my ethnicity was. And I did. And I was surprised by what I found. Years later, actually, this was 2020.
Before the pandemic?
No, right after the pandemic.
Okay.
Right after the pandemic, I was reached out to by a woman who claimed to be my sister. And at first I thought she was just a scammer trying to get my Facebook passwords. But after she started answering some really intimate questions about my family, I opened up to the idea. And then She sent me to Ancestry to see that she matched with me 99%. And then my older sister that I grew up with revealed to me that that was her best friend coming up and that my mom dated her dad.
Oh,
and
wow.
then I put it all together when she sent me a picture of her father, who looked like an older version of me. Then I discovered that I have 3 more sisters and a younger brother. And I've spent the past few years just connecting with them. And it turns out my father is from Guyana originally and was a professional soccer player there and in Great Britain before coming to the United States and eventually meeting my mother.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to take on during the middle of a pandemic.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Especially when
Oh,
they look like you and they look and sound more like you than the family you grew up with. It's a trip.
yeah. I mean, that's obviously you got a whole, like you thought you had 4 of y'all, 5 of y'all in one house, and all of a sudden you just say, look, we got another truckload coming your way. It wasn't like just one. It was like you had something else going on. Wow, that's definitely a lot to, and obviously you were in the middle of filming and working, and like you said, yeah, you never know who's watching you, and like you said, they were like, hey, look, I'm related to you. You know how it is in the industry, and people are always claiming they know you from something. Now that you make it somewhere, they're like, hey, what's up? Remember me from high school?
Correct.
But that is I'm glad to hear, and I know the listeners are happy as well too to know that you are now reconnected. That goes to show the type of man that you are as well too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Despite all the ups, the downs, the uncertainties, you still took that opportunity to make that connection. And I feel sometimes, some people at a certain age are stuck in their ways. They stop moving forward with that. They say to themselves, like, look, I made it this far, I'm good. I don't need to connect with you as that way, but I'm glad you're doing that. Now, what inspired you to get into directing? Like, I know directing was a big thing and it's still a big thing in your life right now, but like, how'd you even get to that?
Again, like I started editing all of the films, acting and, choreographing the stunts and fight scenes and editing all of the films me and my friends made from age essentially 12 all the way up to age 20. I stopped because for some reason being a filmmaker just didn't seem realistic. So from age 20 to or 21-ish to age 25, I just studied acting and I moved to LA and acted on television and in commercials. And it hit me at around 24, 25 that filmmaking was becoming a lot less expensive to be a part of. Now I had residual checks coming in and I was like, instead of waiting for someone to call me to be a part of a movie, I could be the person who calls others to like make movies. So I took all of my residual checks and I started just making movies as much as I can. I bought myself a red camera with the help of some family. I bought some lenses, some lights, and just really started seeing what I was made out of because I didn't have the comfort of working with my core group of friends back home. Everybody had grown up and decided that filmmaking was a thing we did as kids, but they couldn't make a living off of it. I was kind of on my own in LA and in the LA area, just making it happen as best I could. And I started making web series. Those won a ton of awards. I started making viral shorts that got seen by millions online. And then I started working on features, not really connecting that like I could turn this into a real career yet. It was more like, here's an opportunity, I'm going to take it. Here's an opportunity, I'm going to take it. And my first feature film, Chalk It Up, ended up on Netflix. It's a gymnastics film. I produced and shot my a second feature film with some buddies I made while I was in LA. And that's called Prodigy, and that was on Netflix. And then the first feature film I ever wrote, shot, and directed, and all of that was Takeout Girl. And it really wasn't until I was prepping for Takeout Girl that I made the decision that, like, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Yes, yes. I mean, you got to go through a couple of doors before you actually see that sometimes, because, and especially growing up from an environment of the inner city, sometimes you don't even know if you're capable or even worthy of an opportunity like this. So you just start going through it and going through it. And before you know it, you're like, wait, hold up. I'm actually good at this. Yeah. I can actually make this profession. Now, as you're going through this whole process of, taking on these projects and stuff like that, did you ever feel at any point in time that it was too much to handle?
Yes, but I think my threshold is much higher than the norm because, again, I grew up watching my mom turn a dime into a dollar. It's so hard. You feel like such a bad person when you're doing what you love and you're tempted to complain about it, and your mom did what she did. It's a constant reminder to just shut up and get to work. Or it's a constant reminder that clearly I can handle more than this. I come from, like, being hungry. I come from really not being sure if I'm going to be alive at the end of the week. So, like, the problems I encounter as a filmmaker do become very first world. And it takes, don't get me wrong, as I get better and better and more opportunities come as a filmmaker, I'm transitioning into a place in life where I'm happy and so grateful for all of the opportunities I have gotten as a filmmaker. But when I think about having children and starting a family, nothing that I'm doing is good enough. I have to get much, much farther from I really don't want to, I want to be in the 1% of earners when I have kids, because I just don't want them to ever have to experience any of the things I've gone through. And if I can do that through filmmaking, then I will. I'm not certain I can because, I just got back from South by Southwest like a night ago. And I spent the whole week watching as many screenings as possible, going to as many panels as possible. And to be honest, the quality of work that I and a couple of my friends are doing, it's right there. Like, we should be at that film festival, but either we lack the luck of having a programmer watch our work that is, like, really into what we do, or we don't have the connections. And I still don't know which is the thing that's keeping me from breaking through this glass ceiling, but I'm unintimidated by slamming my head into that glass ceiling until it breaks. So
now, I'm thinking about it right now, the way you are breaking this down, like, obviously your past has kind of helped shape and molded you into the individual that you are. It's kind of helped you develop some thick skin. So could you express to the listeners a little bit more about the industry and what to expect? Some of the things, the goods and the bads.
I think the absolute best part about being a filmmaker, because I consider myself more of a filmmaker than I am a director, because I've just worked too long at developing myself as a well-rounded creator. Because I write, I can shoot as good as some really great DPs. I can edit and do visual effects. I even scout my own locations and put together my own first aid kits. Like, it's top to bottom. The paperwork, the insurance paperwork, the releases. I don't really have a lot of help with that sort of thing. The main thing I'm not doing in my films is starring in them, and down to getting the music. And that may sound like a lot, but every time I do it, I feel like I understand how capable I really am. And as a Black man, coming from where I come from, coming from a place where, like, the glass ceiling is so low for us, there's nothing that makes you feel greater than overcoming a situation that crushes so many other, artists and aspiring, industry giants. They get crushed by the weight of that many tasks. But for me, it's just another day. And it makes me feel special, you know what I mean? Which a lot of Black men, unless you play football or basketball or you can rap, the world doesn't really slap that label of special on you. You got to find a way to do it yourself. And I do it through sheer accumulation of tasks that, I can take so much without breaking. And to me, that, I don't know, that is my Blackness to a certain extent. I feel like both mentally and physically, like I have to be one of the most sturdy human beings on the planet. And to have my mental capabilities tested, it always strengthens me because I inevitably persevere. And at the end of it, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could lift all of that. But the films get done and most of the time they exceed expectations. So do not shy away from doing the legwork. You need to know what you're made out of, whether you have connections or not. I think every person is going to want to look in the mirror and know whatever they achieved as an artist, it wasn't because someone did them a favor. It's because you earned it. I would rather take the stairs and know that if I one day won some major filmmaking award, that's mine. I did that.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't my cousin who was there first, who told people about me, therefore they felt like they had to hire me. If I'm in a film festival, I'm in a film festival because my film was good. Like, because I don't know anyone. And there's a beauty to that. There's a purity to that I think is far overlooked and incredibly important for young content creators of color. We build our own worth, and I love that. I love that feeling. I hope I answered your question. No,
you did, and I'm liking the fact that you're dropping some serious gems right now. You're dropping some stuff. I like the fact that you're talking about your Blackness is about you being able to kind of endure and take on a lot of stuff at the same time.
Oh yeah, I mean, to take it a step farther, like during the pandemic, especially around the George Floyd stuff, this is a fact I've carried around with me all of my life. And I don't know if you'll agree with it or not, but it's a really harsh fact. Sometimes when I'm driving or I'm by myself, I acknowledge the fact that here in America, I am the most feared and hated individual in this country. People are afraid of me for no reason, or people are angry at me and borderline hate me because of things they've heard about me but never saw me do. And to go into Hollywood and expect to be given an opportunity off my merit, knowing that that's the world I live in, it sometimes feels like a full-on contradiction, And like, I think people give very little credibility to that old phrase where Black people, I grew up with my mom looking me right in the face and saying, you're going to have to be 10 times as good as the white kid next to you to get the same thing. Nothing has proved more true in my life than that. And the reason why I can say that is because I am a filmmaker.
You see it.
I am not a director. I am a filmmaker. And what I mean by that is I have a friend in the industry who shared a room with me. We learned how to write together. We won all those awards together. We went to the same high school, similar level of education, right across the board. Yet, with the exact same demo reel, that white guy was able to go get represented by the biggest agency in the world, take his script, go and get go and get the one of the biggest actors in the world attached to his film, get nominated for Indie Spirit Award with that film, get $5 million to make it.
Damn.
And then go on to be attached to one of the biggest franchises in the world. And that's after taking an 8-year break from filmmaking altogether.
Wow.
Now, the other side of that coin is the black male in that equation of that partnership continued making films every year, proved he can win making web series, proved he can go viral and have positive reviews, overwhelmingly positive reviews on his films and videos, get tremendous press several times a year, get several films distributed on Netflix, go on to make Takeout Girl, in which he won Best Director at the American Black Film Festival, proving that he's one of the best up-and-coming talents in the country of color. Mm-hmm. And the first person to do that with an Asian-led film. And I can't get agencies to even look at my stuff. Same demo reel as the white guy. Because the only thing he had ever done before was the stuff we had done together.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But if you put a camera in his hand and you put a camera in mine and you give us a week and say, go off, make a movie, and we're going to judge them, I would blow him away. Across the board. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? When it comes to art of
totally
making movies, I believe there's very few filmmakers where you could just put a camera in their hand and tell them to go assemble their crew with no budget, like just go make a movie.
Now, with something like that, this is very deep right here. Like, how do you even, like, I know you talked about you being very strong mentally and physically, but like, how do you even wake up the next day to then know that that's going to happen again, possibly?
I'm not going to lie. That's the beauty of being a black man, is you're born with a fire of greatness in your chest. I don't know what it's like to be anyone else, but I know what it's like to be black. And I know that you're born in a body that can jump higher and run faster and lift more weight than most people on average. You have greatness just built in. And so it's really hard to ignore your nature. When you know you're great at something, you just have to pursue it. There's nothing else for you. That's the conundrum of being a black man in America. Is you come out of the womb great. You develop fast. You could be successful at just about any sport you touch. You know what I mean? Like, you can do what you are such a physical human being. Not to mention, you can sing, you can dance. You know what I mean? You can rock 1,000 different hairstyles and facial
and make them all look good.
You can go no hairstyles. It is the weirdest. The whole world models their style after what your culture does. Yet, America points to you and says, you're the problem. You're the problem. You're the scary one. You're this and that. It is the absolute strangest, most mind-bending experience a human being can go through. It's feeling one way and being told you're another. I just choose to get up and acknowledge what is true to me. I should be an A-list director, and I should have been one a long time ago. And I think I'm not going to stop until it becomes obvious to everyone else.
I honestly, just hearing the way you speak of it, you definitely speak from a very deep, compassionate. You definitely are very driven by your purpose.
I think I'm just tired of hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
If a black man says what I'm saying, people tend to call him crazy. When black men proclaim, like Muhammad Ali was called crazy.
Yes, that's true.
And then he proved it. He proved he was not only great athletically, he was a great human being in general.
Yeah. I used to watch documentaries of this young man all the time, and you know the amount of interviews he was in, and he would just say what he would say, and you know people would laugh at him, and he would be like, "Look, you can laugh all you want. You're gonna be interviewing me right after the fight, after I win."
Yep.
And people would be like, "Okay, yeah, whatever." After like 2-3 rounds, knock the person out. All right, let's do that interview now, and he would still be willing to do the interview with them.
Yeah.
Still be willing, just because not only was he doing it for himself and his family to make sure that they had food on the table, but he was also doing it for the culture.
Yeah.
You're doing it for all Black men, but at the same time, the individuals will represent the Guyanese culture as well too. And I think that is a very hard thing sometimes to endure, to put it on your back, knowing that you are in the face of, you know, a lot of people looking at you as like, what could you do to help out the culture?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think that may be the point. I think the reason why my old partner was able to have it so easy and I wasn't. There's a part of me that feels like I have to take every step because those steps mean more when people from your neighborhood, they're not going to have the advantages my old partner had. They're going to be coming from the exact same place I am, and they're going to need to know that it can be done. You know, like it can be done. Now, don't get me wrong. Well, I even say it like this, like, you know, I love Spike Lee, but, you know, NYU is a strong entity to lean on, and not everybody from my neighborhood can go to NYU or Morehouse.
That's true.
Like we come from such dirt that's not accessible to us, but that doesn't mean our dream should be inaccessible. We shouldn't dream because we can't go to a historically Black college or one of the top film schools in the country. Even John Singleton went to USC. That's not realistic and that's not realistic for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, and sometimes it would never be realistic for them because they don't have anyone in front of them to showcase to them like, hey, look, it is possible.
Exactly.
You know, when you started off, you know, doing this, you know, it was just, you know, not saying fun and games, but you were doing it with your friends, and then it just started to, you know, develop and stuff. Could you tell us a little bit more about like what did it feel like to be on your first project? What was that?
My first project as an adult?
No, first project you directed.
My first project I directed, essentially, I think I was about 26 or 27. I was co-directing with the filmmaker I mentioned, the one who's doing the big franchise now. We both didn't really know what we were doing. And we were both, you know, running around like a chicken with our heads cut off because we were the crew. It was him and I. And I take nothing away from that filmmaker. I think he is incredibly talented, and his perspective is definitely one of a kind. It is no surprise to me that his film killed it and that they want to give him that sort of money. It's a big surprise that I'm not getting that first or getting offered that as well, because our perspectives are very similar. It felt like making your way through the wilderness in the dark. You have no perspective of if you're going in the right direction because you had never done it before. You don't know. You're really kind of hoping for the best. But also, there's a freedom in making a project as a young filmmaker. There's a naivete. You know, you don't know that you're not. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be pulling focus for myself. Mm-hmm. I just did it. Hands on the lens, pulling focus, using focus as my main tool, cinematic tool, really. I learned when to pull focus, when it was appropriate to, how to. I had no fear of damn near breaking my wrist trying to turn that lens however far it had to turn just to get from one actor to another if the conversation called for it. And I built a style and a look that really stood out because I was unafraid to do that. I didn't play by the rules. And to this day, I still don't really play by the rules. I do what feels good to me. I call myself an intuitive filmmaker rather than a scientific filmmaker. Now, do I know technical things? Hell yeah. I get up every day and learn more about filmmaking. When I'm running, I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast about filmmaking. This is a lifestyle for me. I train at making films the way football players train in the off season and preseason and things like that. It is that serious for me. If I don't get up and I don't do something for filmmaking, I'm not working hard enough. And I think that first film really set the pace, because when we did well and we just got into the best web series film festivals and won them and got the screen in France and Australia, it was incredible.
Not knowing it was going to happen that way.
Had no idea.
You're not leading and saying, well, we need to be in this. Like, not once in this conversation, you're like, well, I enter into these things because I need to win or because I want to be seen. You're doing it because you're doing it for the right reasons. And then from there, because of the energy that you put inside of it, it leads you to so many other great opportunities. And even though you might not be seen by that agent that you really want at this present moment in time, just know that the work that you're doing is definitely inspiring. From the stuff that I read from your bio, from the films that you have put out, to being from growing up in Milwaukee to having your films that were in a theater rented out to now being on Netflix on a large platform. Could you express to the listeners right now, like, what does it feel like to be an African-American male right now who's has that type of platform? And how are you using that platform to kind of help inspire and also influence a larger culture?
The influence I have, I think I've always been aware of that responsibility. So nothing feels different. My responsibility to make a film and have it connect and shed light on a very particular topic, not just for minority viewers, but for everybody. But it definitely hits closer to home with a lot of minority viewers. That's always been my agenda. And it's always been my goal to do that without making the film less entertaining to anyone who decides to hit the play button. Being where I'm at, having films on Hulu and Netflix, it doesn't register. I think it's like a race. When you're running a sprint, I think one of the worst things you can do is look back. And right now, I just feel like I'm still mid-sprint. I know that all I know is that I felt really good about the progress I was making, especially with my last film, especially with, getting it picked up by 1091 during a pandemic. But and a lot of things have changed in terms of my interactions with producers I introduced myself to and getting another film made. But there was a surprising amount of restrictions set upon my career too. It wasn't the sort of mobility I thought I would get. So I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I think I'm ready to go into my next project, and my next project has a very socially aware message, which I'm incredibly proud of. So nothing's deterring me from doing what it is I'm doing. I think my next film is going to be the best thing I've ever done. And I'm doing some shorts, which are going to be the best shorts I've ever done. So I'm very immersed. I'm still working hard, but I am disappointed in the amount of doors that have been opened, considering how many accomplishments were reached over the course of the pandemic in the past 2 years.
I get you.
So I have a lot more I have to get done. The work ain't done yet. We got more to do.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And the fact that you're saying, look, I've accomplished 10 things, but only got 2 doors open. But you still waking up every day saying, look, those 2 doors are going to help put me on, put my family on, and definitely help put the culture on as well, too. So absolutely. That is an amazing mindset to have, because some people could be ungrateful for the opportunities that do come their way. They're like, you know what? I deserve more. You know what? And just be rude about it, disrespectful about it, opportunist about it. But you're like, you know what? If this is what's the universe or what's put on the table for right now, I'm going to make the best of it. But I'm not even just to make the best of it. I'm going to show you how good I am. how amazing I am, and why that, after this project is over, my name is going to ring bells. It's going to be a household name for you at the end of the day. And I like the fact that you said that you develop your own style when doing it. Did you utilize that style when filming Takeout Girl? Could you talk a little bit more about that? I know it's on Hulu now, and you won Best Director at the ABFF, if that's correct.
Yes.
One of the most prestigious film festivals in the country. Talk about that.
I think my style can best be described as slightly pretty cinema verite, or realistic cinema, and it's somewhat motivated by the fact that I haven't had a budget that allows me to make movies that look perfect. So instead of trying to fake a film that looks perfect, I ground my film in a griminess, even in the shot style and the shooting style, like roaming focus and a handheld look. Even if we're on the tripod, we loosen all of the settings on the tripod to give the film a floating look, but not a jitter. And we use focus still as our main cinematic tool, where we use very shallow focus, and we're throwing the focus across the room from one person to another. We're never doing ping-ponging heads. We're doing, focus pull from one person to another, the way you would with your eyes. You don't blink every time someone else says something. You look to them. You shift focus from one person to another. So I try to capture a realness in that, which I think people really like. And it also, when it gets to situations where I can't really do what I want to do, and there will inevitably be flaws, those flaws are hidden in the fact that I'm already trying to make the film feel less perfect. So I think, don't get me wrong, as time goes on, my cinematic capabilities are growing. And I'm starting to get a much more polished look than even I anticipated, especially on this new short and my last one, which has, gotten into 27 film festivals so far. And this film I'm going into my last day of, which is an overnight tomorrow. Getting into ABFF was wonderful. Just getting into it was wonderful because it was an Asian-led film, so it wasn't a guarantee. And then to win Best Director, if I have to be completely honest, the American Black Film Festival, Jeff and Nicole Friday, have honestly been in a 20-year career as a filmmaker. They have been the most critical connections I've made in the industry. With one film festival, they named me Best Director. I got a $10,000 prize, which I used to finance my next short film. And they set up a meeting with someone in the acquisitions department at Sony Pictures. One relationship. They didn't have to do any of that extra stuff, and they did it all. Not to mention, they make themselves accessible to their alumni. They care about you. They're one of those entities that, it's called the American Black Film Festival, and there's a ton of Black film festivals out there. But it feels like Jeff and Nicole understand that when you talk about Black artists and you say you're for Black artists, then you need to support those Black artists, understanding the things they have to overcome. Yeah. And that's why they put in that extra. So if you are a Black content creator, you have to submit. That is our Sundance. And don't forget it.
That's good that people saw that in you and said, because in the industry, some people don't have to put you on anywhere. It ends right with you dropping off the film and people clapping for you and like, great job on your film. But when people see something in you, and again, it's because the passion and the drive that you have, it's definitely seen outside of your work. It's not just on the big screen, but it's the way you carry yourself that helps you out. Now, doing a film, whether it be a big film, small film, short film, how is it? Is it very important to you to have a very diverse crew? Like, what does that mean to you to have a diverse crew? Do you utilize that? A lot of times, did you do that a lot within Takeout Girl, for example? And you said it was a predominantly Asian film with Asian actors and actresses, but like, what was that like? Was it very diverse for you?
My films. Well, I live in Las Vegas now, and it's a super diverse city. And I am proud to say that my group of friends comprises of people from pretty much, with origins on every continent. My girlfriend, of course, is Greek. My producer on Takeout Girl was a Filipino. A lot of my crew were Filipino. Half of my crew were women. And I do think that's like, it's a rainbow coalition of ideas being thrown at you. I loved having women on my crew because, the name of the film was Takeout Girl. And if I did anything that didn't feel authentic to the female experience, I would get at least a reaction that wasn't the best. And I knew to pivot. So yeah, having a diverse crew keeps you in check, whether they're vocal or not. If you're paying attention to what they're doing and how they're receiving things, you instantly realize that something either needs to change or that you're moving in the right direction. I also think that, again, taking it back to what my mom said, you got to be, 5 times as good as the white kid next to you to get the same thing. Well, all of my crews are so diverse that whenever I get done and I get a great product, I'm extra proud of myself because I didn't surround myself with a bunch of yes men, and I didn't surround myself with a bunch of people who are just like me, so everything's guaranteed to work out. And I never work with the same people all the time. So like, I prove to myself time and time again that I have the communication skills to get a great product from my white crew members, my black crew members, my Asian crew members, and my Hispanic crew members. And I think that's on purpose. I think when I do inevitably make it to a studio level, I will have confidence in my communication skills and my demeanor, regardless of who I'm talking to, man or woman, trans or not, Asian, black, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. We can get this done.
That is crucial in order to kind of like incline up that ladder. The more transferable you are, the more of a chameleon to kind of fit into different environments and still be comfortable and make other people feel comfortable. That's a very hard thing to do. And if you come from a very hard upbringing, sometimes you're not open to those kind of things. You're not vulnerable. You definitely don't want to, let people in. So which causes people kind of say, you know what, you great job on filming. We're gonna leave it right here for you, sir. And then they go pass it on to the next person who they feel like they could work with and collaborate with, and ideas could flow a little bit more. And then people look back and say, hey, look, why didn't they pick me? Maybe you didn't open up enough, But obviously, it's an industry. You got to pay close attention to the people that you let into your circle. You have a certain type of energy that like it's definitely contagious. Just in this interview, I'm saying like, all right, Paul, I'm getting off of here. I'm gonna put the culture back on my back and I'm gonna keep moving forward, just like yourself. But what is like the big, to kind of conclude on our interview? You're saying a lot of great things, but what are like, 2 things that you're looking to do in the near future? Like I know obviously you talked about really, breaking that barrier, breaking through that glass ceiling, but like, what are like 2 of your personal goals and what you're looking to achieve in the next 2 to 3 years?
I want to make a film either by myself or with a big production company or a studio that gets nominated for an Indie Spirit Award. I want my films to be recognized on that level within the next 3 years. I would love for that same film to be accepted into at least one top tier film festival, such as South by Southwest or Tribeca or AFI or, any of those, Toronto, any of those would matter. to me. I would love to have a path to directing television. I apply to every television workshop available to apply for, and I do it religiously, and I constantly try to improve the trajectory of my career so that every year when I apply, there's new stuff to talk about. I'm going to continue to do that. I think within the next year, I've finally acquired enough equipment to the point where I'm getting the images and the audio that I've always wanted in my films. But now I'm going to shift the money that I would have been putting into equipment and tools back into education. I'm going to start seeking out cinematography workshops with major cinematographers, directing workshops, and put that money toward just picking up some nuggets that'll take my work to to an even greater place. I would love to. I would definitely love to have the potential to direct films like my old partner. Like I said, his first feature film was a $5 million film with an A-list actor. And his success is wonderful because it proves to me there isn't something that's otherworldly about people who get those opportunities. They're not just that talented. This is the same cat I sat and wrote. I think there's no human being who has worked more hours with him than I have on this planet. I know that guy. I know what he's capable of. I know how he writes. I know that him and I could go into two different rooms, write half of a script and put it together and have it work right away. So if his perspective works, I know mine works. And I would love to be directing films within the $5 to $10 million budget range with actors that I admire. You know, my goal is to have Coleman Domingo in a film that I put together for him, and to have him be a part of projects I do. Very, very, very huge goal of mine. So I don't know. That's a couple. It's too many for me to list all in.
Hey, look, you gotta throw it out there into the universe.
Oh yeah, I do every day.
You gotta put that out into the universe, and then when you say things like that, you just start moving in that direction. You know, and so and I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate all the information you have given to the listeners today. Kind of really just relaying just your journey, how you started off, how it was just fun, in a sense, fun and games with your friends, but then it turned into a career, right? And then the career turned into that passion, and then the passion turned into like a lifestyle, right? Now you're living it every single day, every single week. The films that you're touching on, they go from the gymnastics to Takeout Girl. Like it's showing the listener and also the viewers as well too about how versatile you are as a director, as a filmmaker, as someone in this industry. You're not like limiting yourself as you go. And I think that's a lot of key gems that you've dropped that in a sense is like advice that you would give to someone who's on the up and coming. And one of the big things you really talked about today was like really just being like, look, you got to really have some thick skin, especially when you get into situations where people are not willing to give you those opportunities that you want, or you feel like you deserve at that point in time, to still get back up the next day and do it over and over and over again. So your mother would be very proud of you. I know your family members are very proud of you and the work that you have done. And you just continue to do what you do. Any final words you want to give to the listeners?
Keep an eye out on what I'm doing. If you get a chance, check out Takeout Girl. It's on Hulu right now. And thanks for listening.
Yes. So guys, listeners, if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Hisonni's, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com. Follow our social Zaka at Zaka Connect, and also follow our feed Zaka wherever you listen to your podcasts. Again, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.